You just can't make this stuff up. You really just can't make this stuff up. We got a brother from a YouTube channel by the name of Black Conservative Perspective. It's unbelievable, you know what I'm saying, how our people do the things that they do and willing to do the things that they do to the detriment of black people in certain situations. Now, I'm not saying that I don't like the guy because he's a Republican. I'm just saying I don't like what he's saying about reparations because, as you know, I'm not a fan of the Democratic Party. I know the history of the Democratic Party, and I still believe that they are the Democratic Party of the KKK back in the South. I know the history of the Republicans. As you know, I do not vote. I've never voted a day in my life, and I never will because I don't believe in politics like that. You know, I think it's all a sham if you really ask me. But do what you got to do. But as a history historian and as a person that have studied politics and stuff, you know, when it comes to Republicans, I know who Abraham Lincoln is. I know the contributions of Abraham Lincoln, and I do respect Abraham Lincoln, you know what I'm saying, for what he did. So this big whole thing that black people don't respect anything that a white man has done, no, you know what I'm saying. I'm also a fan of J.F. Kennedy, you know what I'm saying, because he had a heart. Now, let's get to the video at hand and let's just break this down and let's just be honest. First of all, before I play this video, I want Black Perspective. I want you to understand one thing, brother. Nobody dictates who we fight and when we fight. As you know, traditional black people in America or foundational black Americans, you don't tell us who to go after first. We're in the United States of America. So we're going to deal with what America did. You're not going to try to misdirect us over here and say, well, you need to go deal with these people first. No, you don't tell us what order to go in. You know what I'm saying? And that lady, as a Caucasian American, she lost her right to say anything. She's not going to dictate, and you're not going to dictate when we do it and how we do it. Okay? You don't have the right to tell us in what order we should do it in. Okay? Because her descendants enslaved our people. So she don't have a right to tell black people when they should go after and what they should go after and how they should go after. Let's just get that straight right now. We deal with Africa when we want to deal with Africa. But right now we're dealing with the United States of America. So let's get that straight. Okay? Out the shooter. Okay? Now let's go ahead and break down this brother's video and let's see what he's talking about. Let's go.
Which means everything that the white man did bad to the black man, that is what we want to teach in school. We don't want to teach anything good that the white man did for the black man. Like, for example, fighting the...
That's not true because it's already being taught in American schools already about Abraham Lincoln and the contribution of Abraham Lincoln and the contribution, you know what I'm saying, and the heroism of what's being taught in the schools today. All of our heroes happen to be, traditional Americans, okay, or Europeans or whatever you want to call it. So no, the literature is already there that makes the so-called Europeans look like heroes. So I don't know what you're getting at when it comes to this, but we're gonna go further, and as he go into his little video representation, whatever you want to call it. Let's go.
Civil War, right? Like the Union, okay, all those white people, white men who died fighting on behalf of black slaves, right?
First of all, let's get one thing started, brother. If you're going to tell history, then tell it correctly. It wasn't just about slavery, and you know it wasn't. It was about a power dynamic that was going on between the South and the North. The South was booming because they had the cotton, so they had the money, they had the power. The North wanted some of that power. So the only way they can do it is by breaking down, you know what I'm saying, the number one economy that the Southern states had, and that was slavery. Let's tell the real reason why the North, okay, went out to the South, okay? And what they did, they say, you know what? we're going to go to the slave and we're going to tell the slave, come along and fight with us and you will gain your freedom. They knew how bad the slave, let's be honest here, brother. They knew how bad the black slave wanted to be free. They knew he was going to fight hard. You know why they won that war? Do you understand, brother, why they won that war? Because the brothers that was fighting beside them wanted to be free. And they knew, they said, you know what, if we get these black slaves to fight with us, well, we got a guaranteed to win, because I know they're going to fight hard because they want to be free. But let's tell the truth about what it was really about. Okay. They just threw you're going to get your slavery papers in there as an incentive to get us to fight in that war. You know what it was about. But it was really about economics. It was really about power. It was really about the North versus the South. And they knew that the number one economy was cotton. The number one economy back then in the United States of America was slavery. And the South had slavery on lock. And they was overpowering the South. You know what I'm saying? So when you start dealing with politics and you go inside the White House, you go inside the Congress and all of this stuff, all that has to do with it, because the South had a lot of power back then because they had a lot of money. They had a lot of money. They had one of the biggest economies in the world, the cotton economy. That's what it was about. Okay? That's what it was all about. Let's be honest. Let's go.
Wanting black slaves to be free, defeating the Confederacy. You never hear the woke revolutionaries give that credit and say, hey, there's a lot of white people that fought and died, for slaves to be free. They never get credit for that. But all white people in this country, according to the woke revolutionaries, have to be damned for eternity for the sin of slavery, even though their families or their ancestors never owned slaves or had nothing to do with slavery.
That's not true. As you once again start to insult our intelligence, we don't believe that these are the people that actually created these acts. What we are saying is that these people have the power now to correct what their ancestors did in the past. That's why we're holding their feet to the fire. We saying, okay, you know the history. You know what your people did. Now we expecting you to have, some basic humanity and straighten up your forefathers' mistakes. Because if you really had nothing to do with it and you really did not agree with what your forefathers did, then you would go out of your way to say, you know what, let's make this right. It's not like you don't have the money to do it. America is the richest country in the world. You have the money to do it. So what's the issue? And I would ask the question, why not? Why not give reparations and show the world, and most definitely show black people, that you're not like your forefathers? But also, let's touch down on this. He doesn't understand there's something called guilty by association, or what I would call, what was that name? That word that I made up for it. It was called, I call it guilty by inheritance. Yeah, there it goes. Guilty by inheritance. Now, we know that America, in the average, not all white people, but the average white people have benefited from slavery and have wealth passed over to them because of slavery. So to me, in a lot of ways, I say they're guilty by inheritance, because they inherited all the money and wealth that came from slavery. And according to the law, if me and you are in a car and we go rob a bank, and then we take that money back to the house and give that money to some of our friends, and our friends go spend that money, they're guilty, by the fact that they're spending the stolen money from the bank. And everybody in that house will go to jail, even though they wasn't there. Even though if they didn't even know nothing about it, they will still go to jail because they're guilty by association. So that's how I look at it the same way. today's American that was not there in slavery when it was all going down still benefited from it and are guilty, according to me, you know what I'm saying, which I really don't care. I'm not here to judge and execute people. I'm just here to say what the truth is. The truth is they're guilty by inheritance. They inherit the wealth of slavery. That's the problem, sir. Let's go.
Right? Again, you understand how this works. You get credit for nothing and blame for everything, including the things that you had nothing to do with. Right? But, Africa, though, right? Those West African nations, coastal countries, right? Those old kingdoms, nobody ever talks about their role and how they're the ones that actually really enable this stuff. They're the straw that stirs the drink. Without them, none of this stuff is possible. But hey, some of these people really do believe that their lives would have been better off if they had stayed in Africa and there was no European colonialism. Because,
Now, here we go. Now, see, I was beginning to think that this brother was a little bit more intelligent to insult us once again by telling us that same old white supremacy talking point. That's your problem, brother. Do you know you're regurgitating things? I can go back to old videos and I can show you where they had actual KKKs, Ku Klux Klan, saying that colonialism was good and that black people should be lucky and thank them for invoking slavery. And then you're going to tell us that we would have been better off in Africa? So you telling us that it was better for us to come here, get hung, lynched, sexually assaulted, castrated? Are you serious? So you saying it was better for us to come here? Are you actually saying that? Do you know what you're saying? So you saying it was better for us to come over here and get whooped, hung, castrated, disrespected, humiliated? Are you serious? Or humiliated? Sorry about that. So I know you're going to try to point that out, but that's okay. It doesn't make no difference. The truth is being told here, and that's all that matters. That's the issue, brother. The issue is you're trying to tell us. Well, check this out. Go dig up our ancestors and you ask them that question. Ask them, was it better off for them to come here? I think that's what it is, because they're about the only ones that can answer that question, But unfortunately, they can't, you know what I'm saying, because they got killed, murdered, lynched, and sexually assaulted, hung, castrated, set on fire. That's probably the reason why they can't speak right now. But since you say that it was better for us to be over here than to be in Africa, I don't know, because as far as I know, they wasn't hanging us in Africa. They wasn't lynching us in Africa. You know what I'm saying? And if they was doing anything, they sure wasn't doing it on a large scale of America. But one thing I do not like is the fact that you're trying to excuse one evil by bringing up another evil. When we go after Africa, and believe me, we know about what Africa did. But look at it this way. Once you give us reparations, we'll have the money to go after Africa. I'll tell the truth. As black Americans, or whatever you want to call us, being in this country, is it easier for us to go after the United States right now or go after Africa? Africa is on a whole different atmosphere. For us to reach Africa, we need money. We need finances. So give us reparations for we can have the finances. And then once we deal with you guys, we deal with the United States of America, and then we would gladly go over to Africa and holler at them. How about that? Let's go.
So in Africa, they weren't doing human sacrifices and slavery and beheading people and killing people and warring and, all that other stuff that, they pretend that never happened in Africa. Only Europeans could do that stuff. No. They were just doing their peaceful world making. Their peaceful world making. That's what lies people actually believe. But hey, the point is that if you actually understand real history.
Now, you see what I'm saying? He doesn't understand real history. Now he spoke on something he doesn't even know. He doesn't even know if there was lynching or hanging anybody over there. But yeah, he still threw it out there as a talking point. Come on, brother. You know dang well they wasn't doing all that stuff over there because it's not even on records of them doing that to us over there. So you already know what the truth is, brother. And if you really knew the truth about West Africa, then you understand that we was actually Hebrew Israelites. You know what I'm saying? When we was in Africa, we were already Hebrews and we were already practicing the Bible and the traditions of the Bible before we came over here. This is why we were such a meek people and they was able to enslave us and do what they did to us because we was a very meek, God-fearing people. We were living according to laws when we came over here. The reason why the West Africans did not like us in West Africa because we was Israelites, and we did turn around and practice our traditional um, religion or wherever you want to call it, because we came out of the land of Egypt, out of captivity, came into Africa. Africa knew that we was not Africans. So if you really knew, my brother, Africans didn't sell Africans into slavery. Africans sold Hebrews into slavery. So, brother, let me break this down for you for your miseducation. You're not educated on history, brother, but I will teach you. Only thing you got to do is just hit my line. I will set it off for you. Let's go.
If you're gonna ask for reparations, which I feel is a waste of time, then you should go to Africa, right? Because they have more to do with it, and they have more.
They have more to do with it. Now, how are they going to have more to do with it when we've been over here for 300, 400 years going through hell? Africa didn't call up America and say, treat your slaves like dirt. Okay? And first of all, the very reason why we're asking for reparations is for two reasons, my brother. Number one reason is they practically promised it to us. The last time I checked, they promised us, was it 40 acres and a mule for each and every individual? So it's about integrity. Now, if somebody promised you something, I'm pretty sure you're going to want it, right? So they promised reparations. Let's get this out the way right now because I'm tired of it. They promised us reparations, number one. And number two, we want reparations for the treatment of slaves, not the fact that they was in slavery in the first place. We're not dumb. We know that people have been enslaved since the beginning of time. Okay? So we're not basically saying, okay, we want reparations just because they were slaves. No, that's what you're saying. No, we want reparations for the treatment, for the 300 years of how they treated us and for what we going through right to this day. Brother, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the mistreatment of slaves, not the fact that they were slaves. Let's get this right. Let's go.
Unpaid debt in regards to selling people to slavery in the first place than the white man, in my opinion, considering how the white man did contribute to ending slavery, not just the trans.
Now, you see how this brother talk? See, these are different kind of brothers. When he can talk and snicker and laugh and think that is funny. Do you see how light he's taking it? He's taking slavery also light. But don't you know that your ancestors were enslaved, murdered, killed, lynched, sexually assaulted? Your great-grandmothers and great-grandfathers, it happened to your family too. So don't sit up here acting like, oh, just because you over there caking and doing what you got to do for them, that's some kind where you exempt from what happened. No, you're not exempt. You're not exempt from anything. So you must understand that and come to your common sense about what's really going on. But it's nothing funny about slavery. This is serious. And what I'm teaching you right now is true history. Because what I haven't heard from you is history. You're just talking. Let's go.
Transatlantic slave trade, but also fought a whole civil war to end chattel slavery, which is the worst slavery ever, right? The worst slavery ever in America.
Now he just contradicted himself because he just said it was the worst slavery. Yeah, it was true. The slavery of Africans was the worst slavery. But it's slavery. Slavery is slavery. So who cares, right? Like you say, who cares about who was the worstest slave, right? That doesn't matter. It was the treatment of the slaves is the reason why we're asking for reparations. Please get that understood in your mind. Those two reasons why we're asking for it. Number one, they promised it. Number two, the treatment of the slaves. Let's go.
But hey, that will require a nuanced understanding of history, something that a lot of people really don't have. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.
Now, as you see
I want to show you
what
a
was
side
going
hustle
down,
gold mine. No, it's
as you guys seen what just happened, it was a bunch of scroopery, if you really ask me. Tell me what you think. This brother is really misinformed because he doesn't understand the true history of black people in America, that we came out of Egypt, out of captivity, ended up back into captivity again when we came into Africa, but we were fleeing from the people in Egypt, okay? And that's how we ended up in Africa. So you have to understand true history, brother. And it saddens me because a lot of people don't understand, because the Africans knew he wasn't African, brother. They didn't sell their own people into slavery. Name one time where they truly sold an African. If that be the case, they be still selling Africans now. No, they sold us into slavery. The Hebrews, okay? That's who they sold into slavery. You know what I'm saying? So stop that Africans sold Africans into slavery. That is not true. Okay? So I gave you the very two reasons on why we are asking for reparations, okay? Number one, they promised it to us. Number two, the treatment of slaves. You guys have a beautiful day. Stay truly informed. Do not listen to the Jedi mind tricks of these individuals and uneducated brothers and sisters that's regurgitating white supremacy talking points. No, I don't think he's a white supremacist because he's Republican. White supremacy is everywhere. Racism is in Republicans and Democrats. There is no difference. Only thing I ask this brother to do is to do a little bit more research on what you be talking about. Fade the black, stay black. You know what I'm saying? Be one first. I'm out of here.